blooming with green moss growing in such abundance on the dirt walls that after a rain they scraped it with a shovel. The school progressed. Its reputation grew rapidly, as did the size of the student body. In 1873, Sonny persuaded his scholarly brother John, who was teaching in North Carolina, to join him as teacher and associate principal. John remained at Webb School until the time of his death and made great contributions, and he died in 1916. Along the way, Sonny married his sister's college roommate, Emma Clary from Unionville. Sonny's sister had said that Emma was the only woman she ever had known who would know how to handle the dear brother of my heart. They were to have 8 children, 2 of whom would follow him in the business of educating boys. In 1874, Vanderbilt University was founded. Some members of the first graduating class of Sonny's school made up part of Vanderbilt's freshman class. At the end of that year, heartening news came from Vanderbilt. Cullioca graduates were the only students who took first honors in the university's first examinations. The school grew and prospered, but there was one unresolved issue of great concern. Sonny was unable to control the town's sale of beer and whiskey to his students. So in 1886, he picked up and moved his school to the little town of Belgrade. I heard in an address by Cecil Irvin, who's a Webb alumnus and Webb historian, that Vanderbilt's early administrators urged Webb graduates after their college graduation to begin similar schools in Middle Tennessee in particular, so that they could become feeder schools to Vanderbilt. More than 20 schools were founded by Webb grads in the next 45 years or so, mostly in Middle Tennessee. One of those schools was Webb School, California, a ways out. The Schoolmaster, the book, The Schoolmaster, and Schoolmaker, and I hope you've read this wonderful book about the history of Webb School, tells us a joint stock company of leading bell-buckle citizens raised $12,000, a small fortune in those days. And of that sum, they used to build a classroom building, $2,200 to build a classroom building known as the Big Room. A sturdy wooden building, it stood for 65 years, still heated by a pot-bellied stove, and was replaced only in 1951. Demonstrating what Sonny valued as most important, $400 was spent on the library building, and $8,000 was spent for books. And by the way, when the Big Room was torn down, we were here, we'd just been here a couple of years, and I said to Bob, that'd be fun to have that pot-bellied stove. He said, I never want to see a pot-bellied stove again in my life. So he didn't get it. And I'm glad I got it. Along with the desire for academic excellence, educating young men to become reputable leaders was also of great importance. But perhaps the most important part of the culture of the school was the emphasis placed on living an honorable life. The schoolmaster was a lively personality who made his classes exciting and his punishments unforgettable. Punishments were made to fit the crime. One boy who had skipped school to go fishing was made to try his luck with a line and a pole in a rain barrel all day long while the students passed him by. And there is the story of Sonny's attending an educational meeting. This was in Claremont, I believe, in California, in which one of the speakers was praising the merits of vocational education. Old Sonny, a nickname that was affectionately given to him by his students, who also wanted his boys to use their hands to work, rose to his feet to declare, I want my boys to learn to milk a cow too, but in school I want them to learn something a calf can't beat them at. Lots of Sonny tales. Sonny, a strict grammarian, said, "I'd rather have a boy say, 'Mr. Webb, I ain't been to town,' and tell the truth, than one who said, 'Mr. Webb, I have not been in town,' and tell a lie." Sonny's son Will, who was to succeed his father and served as headmaster for 50 years, also employed unusual techniques in his teaching. Did you know there's a right way and a wrong way to milk a cow? When the cow is milked the wrong way, it kicks in protest. Once when a boy didn't get his Latin lesson, son Will made him stay after school. Milking time came, and so the boy went with son Will to the barn, and he took the delinquent scholar with him. The teacher sat down to his milking, explaining to the boy that this cow knew Latin, and as he conjugated, the cow would kick if he made a mistake. The cow, after a while, the boy, completely dumbfounded, declared, "If that cow can learn Latin, so can I." Now I want to tell you about my introduction to the Webb School. When I was a senior at UT, my brother had a high school friend in Nashville named Bill Doak. Bill came to Webb when he was 16 or 17. Bill told my brother he had a math teacher he thought I would like. At UT that summer, I happened to meet a young man who was getting his master's in school administration, and in a casual conversation, I asked him what he did. He said, "I teach." And I said, "Where do you teach?" And he said, "Webb School, Buffalo." And I said, "What do you teach?" And he said, "Math." And I said, "Is Bill Doak in your class?" And he said, "Yeah, he is." So I wrote my brother and said, "Tell Bill I met his math teacher." And Bill said, "I bet they get married." My brother said, "No, sure won't be married." 2 years later, we did. He was a gentle man, well respected by his peers as well as by me. The award of merit that I spoke of at the beginning of the talk, presented to him at Asheville School in 1981, reads, "When reason and moderation, clear thinking and tact are required, Bob Webb is sent for. He has done more than any other independent school person to create understanding and harmony between the private and public sector of education, especially in the South." That's the kind of person he was, and that's characterized his life's work. But getting back to our early years, I think most married people would agree that the first year of marriage is an adventure in getting to know one another. As bride and groom, we came to Bell Buckle and lived as dorm parents to a good number of boys in Jackson Hall, which had no longer standing. Life in the dorm as Mr. Webb's bride was an ongoing experience and a continuing education. We had it great. Unlike most newlyweds, I didn't have to cook or buy groceries, and we didn't have to pay rent. We saved more money. Bob made $200 a month, and we saved more money during that time, percentage-wise, than we ever did again. We did have to pay for our own gas, though, and it cost 27 cents a gallon. We ate every meal in the dining room, a part of Grand Hall, with the boys who would almost inhale their food. They just started, they were through before I got started. One morning, there was a rap at the door, and there stood Jeff Bogan, freshman. "Mr. Webb, every time I wake up, there's a little green snake sticking his head out of the top of my door looking at me." Understandably, he found it a little creepy to be greeted by a little green snake every morning. The solution was to fill the holes in the door. I wondered what happened to that little green snake. At Christmas, everyone left for home, Bob and I included. When we returned to Bell Buckle after the holidays, I found a postcard from young John Chambliss. He said,